Do you know what? I absolutely love podcast conferences. Ever since I started attending and actually started speaking back in 2014, I have been on the circuit non-stop. In fact, I've never attended a conference that I haven't either spoken at or exhibited at. Actually, usually it's both, every single time. And every podcast conference that I go to is pretty much the same. It's full of friends. It's full of people that I've come to know. It's full of people that are there for the same reason. This is a very community-led industry. So today, I'm going to talk on the back of a question, actually, that I got in from a friend called Arnie, who listens to the show. So Arnie, a big shout out to you, sir, who listened to the show and just sent me a question saying, Marco, how do I prep for my first ever podcasting conference? So that is what I'm going to talk about today here on the Podcast Accelerator, the thrice-weekly show, bringing you podcast education, industry insights, and straight-talking reactions to podcasting news. You know me by now. If you are new to the show, I am Mark Asquith, that British podcast guy and founder here at Rebel Base Media, the podcast tech company responsible for the Podcast Success Academy, podcast websites, productivity, Rebel Base Studios, and Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcast hosts, where you can host unlimited shows for just one cost. So go and check that out today at Captivate.fm. You can grab a 7-day free trial. So like I said, I got an email from my friend Arnie last week asking me how best to prepare for his first ever podcasting conference. And it's not the first time that I've been asked. In fact, I get asked this probably 2 or 3 times a week running up to any big podcast conference. So, as a bit of a podcast conference veteran, I'm going to dig into my tips in just one moment. But before I do that, one thing that I always do when I'm exhibiting at conferences is I always make sure to build relationships with people and make sure that I can follow up with them via email. Now, very often, people will say to me, Marco, have you got any content that you can send me? Have you got any follow-ups that you can send me? And I say, well, do you know what, actually? There's an iPad right there on my exhibit stand. Go ahead and get involved in the Rebel Base Media newsletters, the Podcast Rebellion, the Podcast Success Academy. Give me your email address and I'll communicate with you. And I do all of that through AWeber. AWeber is my email marketing provider of choice. They're going to give you 90 days completely for free at markasquith.com/AWeber. So go ahead and check that out. Now, like I said, Annie emailed me and said, dude, how do you prepare for your first ever podcasting conference? And I put together 6 tips. 6. I'm quite literally counting these off my Post-it note right now. Yes, that's how I prepare for my podcasts, with Post-it notes. If you don't believe me, listen. That's my Post-it note. All right. I've got 6 tips. And I was thinking about these from a slightly different angle to what most people will tell you. And most people are going to tell you, all right, plan out what talks you want to see. They're going to tell you, plan out kind of where you want to go, plan out who you want to meet, all that kind of stuff. All great tips, but I'm going to come at you with some different ones. All right. Number 1. Tip number 1, Arnie, learn the layout of the conference. Now, most of the time, you'll get a conference app. So Podcast Movement, for example, uses a podcast app. You've got Podfest, which has got its own podcast conference app. All of the conferences, Sound Education that we went to up in Harvard, in Boston, when we spoke up there, they've all got apps, all right? So you can get the layout squared away on the plane. You can get it squared away on the Uber over to the hotel or to the conference center. The reason for this is that you don't want to be stuck. You don't want to be thinking to yourself, right, wait a second. I've only got 8 hours at this conference, which sounds like a long time, but it ain't. If you've only got 8 hours a day, you don't want to be spending your time trying to find the loos, trying to find the coffee area, trying to find the networking area. You need to know in advance the broad layout. Now, Arnie, if you don't have much time to do that, here's what you need to find. You need to find the networking area, which is normally dedicated, and you need to find the exhibit hall. Outside of those, you can kind of meander your way around because those two, everything usually branch off, all right? So just bear that in mind. Learn the layout. The second thing that I want you to do, and I want you to understand this, Arnie, is that, look, great conversations happen inside talks. Great conversations happen on the exhibit floor. But the best conversations happen at the parties. Believe me, I have done so much business. I have made so many friends. I've generated so much relationship from being at the parties. Attend every party. If you are tired and you need a nap, do not skip the party. Instead, skip, I don't know, an hour in the afternoon. And sure, all the kind of people that are a little bit more, I want to say kind of all business. You know, they're going to tell you max out on the talks and all that sort of stuff. But listen to me. Conferences are as much about network and relationships, if not more, than the content. Because the content, guess what, dude? If you bought a ticket, you can get the content online. All you're going to be doing is sitting there watching it anyway. Why not watch it in your own time and go and max out on the relationship side? So please plan out the parties and the events that you want to go to. Number three even, which is a follow-up from that plan the parties, is don't sweat the talks, all right? Don't sweat the talks. Like I said, the talks are available online. The guys at Podcast Movement, Podfest, Sound Education, any of the major conferences, they do online passes that you normally get with the mid-tier ticket and up. And honestly, you're going to take a pile of notes, and more often than not, you're not going to act on that much of what you learn. Sure, there'll be a few tidbits that you implement straight away, but I'll be straight with you. I don't know many people that implement everything, all right? So why not look at the talks later in your own time? Dedicate some time later on a Friday afternoon where you can say, do you know what? I'm going to do that 1 hour talk from Mark. I'm going to listen to that podcast from Podcast Movement, listen to the online recap, and actually just bloody implement from it, all right? So don't sweat the talks, okay? Don't feel like you've got to be at every one of them. Don't feel like you've got to be at talks all day long. Again, build relationships. That's the main focus. Next up, stand out with decent cards and or contact information. Now, I'm a big fan of business cards. I know it sounds really old school, and I know everyone's like, business cards, a bit boring, but invest in good ones. And I'm not talking fancy cut ones from Moo. Fine, I'm not impressed by your rounded corners or your little mini cards. I ain't impressed by any of that stuff. What I'm talking about is some decent cards. And at the risk of sounding like Christian Bale in American Psycho, what you need to understand is that people will remember high quality. Tactile things matter. I usually give stickers out for something that I'm, like a Captivate.fm sticker or whatever, and a decent quality, thick business card, usually with some kind of foil plating on there, usually with some kind of, you can get the sandwich board cards, sometimes from Moo, you can get them from Hot Metal Press here in Sheffield, but basically where the cards are really thick stock, because here's what's going to happen, right? People are going to stick those cards in their bag, in their back pocket, in their lanyard holder. When they get back to the desk, they're just going to throw them on there. The things that they remember when they feel that card for the first time, they go, oh, Arnie, that's a really bloody nice card. When that lands on the desk amongst all the other cards, it's that card and the cards like it that they're going to notice. The rest, they probably ain't going to do that much with, all right? So stand out with decent cards and or little bits of swag. Next up, give everyone a few minutes, but be strategic about your connection plan. Now, a lot of people will tell you only talk to the people that you think matter and that can help you. That is absolute rubbish, all right? You need to give everyone a couple of minutes. Be nice to people, all right? You don't know whether you can help them or not, okay? So be value-led, be conversational, and go ahead and be a part of the conversation, okay? However, if you know there are people that you strategically want to meet, or you just want to meet because it's nice, you want to meet Colt Cabana? Everyone wants to meet Colt Cabana. He's a bloody nice guy. You want to meet Aaron Mankey? Why would you not? You can maybe get him to do, I'm Aaron Mankey and this is lore. What a legend. The point is, if you want to meet these people, all right, just plan it out. Make a list and don't be shy about going ahead and starting to network with them. They're just people. However, I know so many people that do this. And it does my head in, right? Don't just think, I only want to network with the top tier people. It does my head in, all right? You see this with so-called podcasting celebrities, all right? Drives me insane. They'll go off to their top tier A-list lunches, their top tier A-list networking. It's absolute rubbish, all right? It's absolute rubbish. That's why they don't build their circles. That's why generally after a couple of years, their brand starts to suffer because they're not acting like real people. You need to act like a human, all right? So give everyone a few minutes. And if you're struggling for networking, come and find me. I know most people at these events. Come and find me. I will introduce you to anyone. And if you're struggling and you just want a place to hang out, maybe you're an introvert, come and find our booth. You can hang there as long as you want. I'll get you a drink. I'll get you a snack. You can talk to me and the team with no pressure, all right? I will introduce you to everyone that comes up to our booth. That is a promise. If you're struggling, come and find me. Rebel Base Media Exhibit, all right? Come and find me. I will do that for you. Next, kind of on the back of this, Arnie, is listen, do not sell. Guess what? Everyone's there with the podcast at podcasting conferences. You ain't impressing anyone with your podcast. Sorry, your podcast could be outstanding, and I'm sure it is. But you're not going to impress anyone, okay? Because they're all there doing the same thing, selling their own thing. So instead, listen. Be the one person out of all this that listens and doesn't try to sell. You'd be surprised how many people will ask you about your stuff if you just listen. Okay? Just listen. And as a bit of a bonus tip, Arnie, make an implementation plan after the conference, right? So many people leave the conference, and you can find this a little bit in our giveaway, conference giveaway, which I'll come to in a second. Implement. Make a time to implement. Book some time in your calendar now before the conference has even started, where 2 weeks after the conference, that's right, not straight away, because you're going to be tired, you're going to be jet lagged, you're going to be catching up. A couple of weeks after, book in an afternoon to go through your notes, to rewatch some of the sessions, and actually implement the things that you learn, all right? Really, really important. Now, at all of the conferences, we give away our slowly to become famous 9 unconventional ways to grow your podcast in just 5 minutes a day. We give that away. It's in the bag inserts at Podcast Movement 2019. I'm sure it'll be the same 2020, 2021. We give it away at all of the conferences. You can come and get a free copy at the booth. It will be available online at our website as well for free. But I want you to take that. It's a booklet. It's physical. It's a hard copy booklet with room for notes at the back. 9 unconventional ways to grow your podcast in just 5 minutes a day. Just go ahead and start to implement those things. But book the time in for after the conference. A couple of weeks after. Not the week after, because you are going to be tired and you're going to be catching up. A couple of weeks after, all right? Book half a day in, book a day in, whatever you need. Please do that, okay? So we're always at the podcast conferences, all right? We're always there. Rebel Base Media team. We're either speaking, exhibiting, or 99.9% of the time, we are doing both. So come and find us. If you're an introvert, this is an open invitation. Anyone, come and find us. Get some free swag. Get some free T-shirts. They're always the best at the conference. They're becoming very, very famous. We've got some people that still wear the OG podcast websites T-shirts from years ago. We saw so many people at last year's conferences wearing the year before's. So come and get some swag. You can hang out on our booth. I will let you do that because, you know what? I'm a bit of an introvert myself. You wouldn't believe it, but I really, really am. I find networking difficult. So come and hang out, and I promise you that I personally will introduce you to anyone that you want introducing to. All right? That's my promise to you. And thank you so much, as ever, for joining me here on the Podcast Accelerator. Remember to tell all your podcasting buddies that the show is available to listen to for free in any app that supports podcasts. And if you're wondering what the best next step to take for your own show is, whether you're a veteran podcaster or a newbie, go ahead and take our short 5-minute survey where I'm going to help you to diagnose and solve the main issue holding your show back. Plus, I'm going to give you access to our free, vibrant Podcast Rebellion community, the weekly free group coaching from myself and the podcast experts here at Rebel Base Media, plus actionable insider-only emails, and even a free invitation to the Podcast Success Academy. So go ahead and invest 5 minutes now to grow your podcast by heading to rebelbasemedia.io/grow. And until next time, never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.